Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Forward Podcast. As you can either hear or see, I'm your host, Lance Armstrong. My two guests this week, super interesting. Katy Sherratt runs an organization called Back on My Feet. I've really gotten to be a big fan of the work that they do. These guys are fighting or combating or taking on homelessness through running, getting people to commit to a structured running program. They have to commit to 3 days a week for 30 straight days, and then on from there. Then they get them back into the workplace, and the success rate is astonishing. So 13 chapters all around the country, one of which is here in Austin. The second half of the show, we're joined by one of their alumni, as they say, Shaun Livingston, who spent 10 years in the armed forces, came back and was injured and just got mixed up and really a bad drug scene. He was their member, and they call all the people in the program members. So not participants, not, patients, whatever. They call them members. And so he was their member of the year last year. Guy, was on the verge of 4 felony convictions for heroin possession, did not have a home, did not have a job, and is now running 100-milers. I mean, all these guys and gals are heroes for fighting for us overseas, but what a heroic effort to overcome such a strong addiction to now, as I told him in the show, you replaced one addiction with another. And so running 100-milers and actually being quite successful. Speaking of running and speaking of Shaun Livingston, I managed to hobble through the Austin Marathon the other day as the charity chaser. I got to tell you, it was amazing to pass, to start 20 minutes behind and run through 15,000 people. The level of support from all the other runners was just so cool. I truly appreciate that. I got everybody but 59 people, and I have a whole lot of excuses that I won't bore you with. If you would like them, I'll send them to you later. But happy to get through it healthy. Big shout out and thank you to my coach, Matt Hensley. Big shout out and thank you to my pacer, Ashish Patel, as well as Sheriff Joe DeSalvo, who came down and did a little bike support for me. Thanks to the three of them, would not have been possible without their help. So hope you enjoy this episode. Just really fascinating. Apologies ahead of time. Katy is from the north of England, so sometimes, although she's speaking English, might be a little hard to understand. Just kidding, Katy. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Forward, never straight. Katy, thanks for being here. Katy Sherratt.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Sherratt. So Sherratt, your hair looks amazing.
As opposed to in the picture that you just showed me earlier.
Guys and gals listening and watching, so I was asking around the room, like, I should probably wear my hat, and Katy's like, yes, you should wear it. We just met. She's judging.
What? I'm honest.
On this, on my fro.
Yeah, no, put a hat back on. Yeah.
Your hair looks good, though.
Thank you. Yeah,
so you run Back on My Feet.
I do.
And we spoke about this, a couple weeks ago when I had the marathon guys on here, which I did the marathon. I actually, right after that podcast, it got questionable. I tweaked my hamstring and then, but I finished 3 hours. Right around 3 hours. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. Didn't get arrested.
That always helps. It's always a good thing.
Yep. Close a couple times. For those also watching, that's a longer story, but we will have a guest come here in a little bit. That's why there's an empty chair there. Shaun Livingston, who's, I would say a graduate, but let's just get to it. It's interesting that you call the people who you guys help, who are involved in Back on My Feet again, are called members.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's specific because on those morning runs, we're all equals, right? So you're just a runner in your running gear. You can't tell who's a member. You can be CEO. You can be, a famous athlete. You can be one of our members. You can be one of the guys from the shelter. It just helps them feel on an equal playing field.
Yeah. So let's start just because let's assume that anybody listening doesn't have any idea what this is all about. So you just give us the 60-second elevator pitch on what's up.
Well, usually my first 10-second one is I make homeless people run, which usually makes people say, well, that's evil and you shouldn't do that. Why do you do that? The longer pitches, we use the running as a tool. So the first part of the program, we recruit individuals who are living in homeless shelters or living in inpatient addiction facilities, and we bring them into a running-based program. And we ask for commitment 3 times a week at 5:45 a.m. in the morning at 90% attendance for at least 30 days. If they commit to that, then they get access to what we call our next steps, which is the more traditional workforce support, finding them a job. We've got a number of corporate partners we can help get them jobs with. But the running piece is where, for want of a better word, not to sound too cheesy, but the magic happens in the sense that the vast majority will turn up and say to you openly, I'm here for the free pair of sneakers. And I'll be like, all right, well, let's see if you're here in 2 weeks' time. And
they get the sneakers on day one?
They do. They get the sneakers on day one. We have a number of partners. Brooks is one of them that provides free sneakers. And they get the sneakers and they come out day one. And 80% of them keep coming every Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Wow. And so, because I find it terribly sad because when I drive from my house to the studio every day, I pass under I-35 right here, and I mean it's a village. It's a homeless person's village, and half the time the police are there just basically bulldozing these poor people. So those aren't the type of members. I mean, if they come from an inpatient facility or they come from a homeless shelter, I mean they're not coming from sleeping under a bridge to a run. Right. Because these people that I see, again, it's tragic. I don't see them showing up at 5:45.
No. So the members that we work with have already made that first step into the homeless shelter, right? So they might have gone through the emergency shelter system and get moved into a transitional shelter system. Those are usually anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. But we have had many members that have slept under bridges, that have slept on the streets, and made their way ultimately to a shelter. And we've got members that have been chronically homeless for 20 years. And the difference, and they'll openly say your program was what made the difference, because it's not just coming out and running, right? You come out in the morning and there's volunteers, there's me, there's you, there's other individuals in the community, and the first thing they get is a hug, which most of them are weirded out by.
That's hug in English.
Yeah.
In American, hug.
Do I need a translate?
What is a hoog?
I need a
hoog is an H-O-O-G?
Yeah, I need a translator.
A hug.
A hug.
You guys have given out 1 million hugs, I read on the website.
We have, probably many more than that by now, but yes, that's the first thing that they're met with. And it just says, you're welcomed. We care about you. We're here for you. We support you. Doesn't matter whether you run a mile, walk a mile, run 3 miles, run a marathon. And that's what they do not have. And they don't get that from the shelter system.
Right. I know. I've always believed that some sort of endurance / suffering, just sitting in that is, and we'll hear about it in spades, I think, from Shawn. I mean, this guy, I don't know if you know, he's like running 100 milers now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this first of all, that's just a bad idea, or crazy. Like, I can't, a marathon, that's enough. Like, why do more?
We've got a lot of members that have run multiple marathons.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. What happens if somebody fails? Like, they sign up and they fail out. They don't make the three days a week or whatever. Can they come back?
So they can't come back. It depends why they failed, right? So if they failed because they relapsed and they turned up at a morning run, intoxicated, then they have to go back and work the recovery program in the facility that they're in, right? They can't just turn back up the next day. If they failed, but we treat it almost like work because we're prepping them to get back into the workforce. So we treat it like work. If they call in sick and explain why they can't be there and the facility back that up, then, you get a day off, right? If you know well, but it really depends on the reason. It's not, you can never come back. It's just a case of timing of why you didn't. We've had many members. We've got one guy who actually now works for us in New York, Derek. He failed out the program twice. The third time came back, worked the program, and now he actually works for us. And he does peer-to-peer mentoring with the members and our alumni. And
just so we can all get an idea, like how many people are showing up? I mean, are we talking 5 people, 50 people?
So far, since we've been around, we've had 5,500 come through the program, find employment and housing, which on an annual basis equates to about 1,500 on an annual basis. Any given morning, say for example in Austin, we've got 3 teams. You'll have 10 to 15 members in each of those teams and an equal number of volunteers. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I see like all the different cities you've got. We got Austin and Dallas. I think you have Dallas.
Yep, Dallas.
New York, San Francisco, Indianapolis. Like,
you're going to test me now, right? Okay.
no, yeah, I'm not. I'm going to stop with Indianapolis
reel 'em
because I wouldn't want to be in like the winter group in Indianapolis and have to show up.
Yeah, no, that's why I moved to California, so I'm always in the sunny group. No,
It's not always sunny there.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, so in the because we're so active in the community, we get a lot of connections to schools, to local officials, and what sometimes they'll do for example, in Boston, in the winter months, they've allowed us to go into the schools because we're running at 5:45 a.m.
Right.
So we're in and out before any of the teachers are there, any of the students are there. So they'll let us use the indoor space to maybe do a workout instead of a run, but still get them together, but obviously not in the brutal cold. But we do go out when it's pretty nasty out there, and we wrap the members up. We have plenty of gear partners who give us all the clothes and the hats and 20 scarves. But yeah,
where did they meet in Austin? I want to do this.
They meet downtown, so we have a downtown one, and we have one a little bit further out. I don't know the geography on that. We'll have to ask Shawn that one because I think that was the team he was. But they work with the Salvation Army here. That facility, I think that's where Shawn was actually based. And so yeah, we should get you out. We should definitely get you out. So.
I would absolutely do it. We just need to slide the time a little bit. I mean, is there not
just like for you? We don't slide the time for anyone, I'm afraid. We could do. We sometimes do evening runs. We sometimes do slightly later in the morning.
No.
Sometimes we do Saturday runs, which are a bit later.
I'll toughen up and do a 5:45.
Okay, all right, good.
I used to be able to do that stuff. I just can't do it anymore.
It is early, and we do. We actually have started looking at, in some chapters, like an evening run, like when we're working with some family facilities as well, we have to make accommodations for the children and like the time of the care that can be provided for the kids. So we do modify that as needed, but that timing is two reasons. One, it works best with the facility timing. They've got to get back and have breakfast, like things that I didn't even think of when I was like, why are we doing it so early? But they've got to get back, have breakfast by a certain time, shower by a certain time. Their life is so regimented by the shelter that they're in.
How do you end up, because obviously you're not from America.
I know, it's just fake this. It gets me everywhere.
This is amazing. Yeah. I do it too.
It's very good.
The loyal listener knows that I have all the accents down.
Give me another one that's not English.
Australian. I'm not going to do the accents. I could do Australian.
It's fine. You can do it after.
Okay.
It's fine. They're going to be terrible. I know.
So thanks for coming on. This has been amazing. Good luck with everything.
You can leave.
Where do people go to donate? Let's hurry up and donate so we can.
When can
first,
we get
you busted on
go?
my hair. I mean, look. Not only did I get just throttled in this marathon, I woke up this morning. This is a true story with a stiff neck, and I felt it like 4. I was like, ooh, this is not good. So
I have a great PT, but she's in San Francisco.
How did you end up here?
I moved over with my first job, was consultant in England at Accenture, and they're one of the big partners of Back on My Feet. So the
lady on the YouTube clip, sorry to interrupt, but the lady on the YouTube clip, Carol, I think,
ended up with a job at Accenture.
She gets a job at Accenture, which is
yeah. So I heard about them through Accenture. And they were about 4 years old at that point. And I met with the founder and I met with some of the team. And I've been looking to move into work that I don't know, just wanted something that meant something a little bit more. And the founder just turned around and said, yeah, I'm going to have to hire you, right? So I was like, okay. And then 6 years later, here I am.
But you didn't land in San Francisco. You started in...
I started in...
It was based in Philly.
Yeah, so I was originally in New York, and what happened was I got up and I went on one of the runs, right? Because everyone's like, my husband was like, at the time was like, you should go up, you should go on the run. I was like, okay. And I got up, and I was weirded out by this whole morning thing and running with homeless. I was like, this makes no sense. I don't know what you're doing. And I met this woman there, Sandra. She was one of the members. And I'd had 2 hip surgeries actually. And I was in like recovery. So I had to walk. And she needed to walk too. But she was basically really sort of down on herself. Really kind of like, I can't do this. I'm not really a runner. And I was like, well, look, I'm new. So let's just walk. And we got to the last block and everyone had finished. We were like an hour delayed. And I said, Sandra, like, let's run this last block, mainly because I'm scared. I don't know where I am and we may have lost everyone and it's dark. And she's like, oh, okay, we can do this. And she starts running and literally something just changed in her face when she started doing something that she didn't think she could do. And then she heard the cheers at the finish line of all the volunteers and all the other members saying, "You've got this, Sandra. You're amazing. You can do this." And for the first time in her life, someone actually believed in it. And she turned to us all at the end and said that. She's like, "No one's ever believed in me the way you all just did." All she did was run one block. That was it. But for her, that was so incredibly meaningful. She ran all the way back to the shelter. She ended up getting a job. She is studying to be a social worker so she can give back to folks.
I mean, some of these stories, at least on the YouTube clip, you know, the one lady got her degree in psychology or something from Harvard. Or,
yep.
I mean,
homeless to Harvard.
Harvard. Put your mind around that, people. Like that's, I mean, most people just, you know, they can't go from, you know, West Austin to Harvard. So to go from,
well, I think that honestly, I think we underestimate people a lot of the time. And I think that, not to get political, but, you know, the government's policy is housing.
You can totally get political.
Okay. The government's policy is housing first. Now, that makes a lot of sense for individuals with severe mental health challenges and individuals who don't have the capacity to be self-sufficient. But what our program does is show you that people that they may have put in a housing first project, put in basically supportive housing for the rest of their lives, may have not been given the opportunity to be as extraordinary as they can be.
Yeah.
And that would have meant someone like Norma, who went from homeless to Harvard, may never have got that. And so that's what we do. We step in and say, no, you're not homeless. You're not a label, and you're a lot more than you think you can be. Yeah.
And then it runs the gamut between drugs and prostitution, and I mean, these people, they're parents, they have children. I mean, it's a
there are a myriad of issues. It's very complicated, and you know, it doesn't always work, right? I mean, that's just the reality of the situation we're in. But when it does, it's pretty. And phenomenal.
How do you handle just? Because these people that I see when I drive over, I mean, the mental illnesses that are just, you know, I would say that. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but 90% of those people are just sick.
Yeah. So the mental health, so part of my issue, again, not to get political, but I'm going to, is that you can't treat homelessness in the same way that you treat mental health. Mental health is a very separate issue that needs a very separate set of resources. And we need more mental health hospitals. We need more mental health support. And that is something that, you know, this country's needed for a long time since that all got rolled back. And I have personal experience with that through family to know that the system here just does not work on that front. They need support. They need to be given the right medication and ensure they're compliant with it. Our program, we can't work with folks who aren't compliant with their medication. So we do have a lot of kind of parameters about who we work with and how, because at the end of the day, we're a nonprofit. We have to be careful, make sure all of our resources are going to the best impact. And so with those instances, we just make sure we've got the best network of support services that we know of in the local city like Austin, and we refer people. So if someone is in the shelter that clearly has some form of mental health issue that isn't medicated, the shelter will typically deal with that. And if they don't, and we see it and they turn up on a morning run, we escort them to the appropriate services to go.
So these people, I mean, they're people that are on the runs that are bipolar, schizophrenic.
But you have to be medically compliant, and you have to have a certification by a doctor. Because we've got volunteers out there, we've got other members out there. It's our responsibility to make sure everyone's in a safe environment, and they are. We've never had an incident in 10 years.
Yeah. What's the fastest runner that ever came through there?
The fastest, oh God.
I mean, maybe Shawn. I mean, I don't know.
He's not. We had a kid.
We had top 10 in some of these things.
No, well, fastest from a marathon standpoint, a long distance. He's definitely up there. Shawn's definitely up there.
Who's the kid you were doing?
There's a kid in Brooklyn. So when we went out one morning, I took a friend with me, and he was all like, you know, whatever. This is going to be a waste of my time. I'm a really fast runner. Like, this is not going to be a good workout. And we had a youth team.
Your friend said that.
My friend said that, right? And I was like, don't be an ass. Come out. You're going to enjoy it and, you know, be supportive. And he came out, and it was a youth team in Brooklyn. And this one kid, he was like, I don't know, 19, 20 maybe. And he was like super shy and like, you know, really unassuming. And then this guy was like, okay, I'm going to run with him. I'm like, okay, all right. Because he said, I'm pretty fast. Pretty fast? Okay, right? They went off. I mean, he was running like sub 5-minute miles, this kid, right? He ran like 3 miles. He came back. My friend was like could not keep up. He came back absolutely exhausted, sweating buckets, going, I did not expect that. And I'm like, yeah, well, don't underestimate people then,
Could you just say sweating buckets one more time?
Sweating buckets.
Sweat. That's not how you said it. He's a sweating buckets.
I said it with a real Manchester accent.
I love that.
Sweating buckets. Yeah.
Have we had a British person on here before?
The guy who made the film, is he British?
Question is, will you have another one back after me?
Who?
The Amazing Race guy.
Oh, Phil Keegan?
British, right?
He's Kiwi, I thought. Well, you're our first Brit.
Oh.
Look at
well,
that.
Will you have any others back?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
we'd
they
have,
won't insult your hair.
Eric Clapton, maybe.
Someone only mildly
Queen?
more famous than
Meghan
I am.
Markle?
Just
We'd
a
have
little-
Meghan Markle on.
No, she's not British. She's not British.
What's the youngest person to ever go through? Remember. The youngest and the oldest.
18,
Okay.
66.
Wow. Man, I can't imagine being 66 and being home. I can't imagine being homeless.
We have a lot of older guys who are homeless, I think, because I think our average age is around 48. And I think that's because, again, the system and other nonprofits out there focus on the sexier things like youth and women and things where the money flows easier. To be quite honest, it doesn't flow easy when you're saying, hey, I'm going to help, a 50-something-year-old, 60-something-year-old who's homeless. But they're the guys that end up under the bridge.
Right.
So if people want to help and they want to stop the poops from ending up on the bridge,
And the breakdown between male and female?
75% male, 25% female. Wow. Again, because the male population in homelessness is generally the most underserved.
Yeah. Huh. And I mean, not to keep harping on it, but I mean, what about you're not? You're an international. So what about international expansion? I mean, I'm assuming that this issue is there in Australia and England and France.
Yeah. So clearly, I'm biased. Clearly, I want to take it to England.
Yeah.
But we're
I
only
just want to move home.
No, never. I've been here 12 years. But we're in 13 cities in the US, and there's a lot more cities to be in, right? So we've got a good model. It works. We should be in all of the cities that need us in the US. But that's not to say London isn't on our radar. We do work with all of the majors, all the major marathons. And so we have members that run a number of the majors. We're actually trying to get one guy who's ran Boston and London and New York. We're going to try and get him to run all of the majors. So, we're thinking about London and England, but we'll see.
What is it? What do you mean? How hard is it to get him to run them all? I mean, Tokyo and Berlin are the other ones, right?
Yeah, so we can get him in easy enough,
Right.
but he has a job now. We have to make sure his job's not. He's going to be
Yeah.
So just.
In the funding, for example, the Austin chapter, that funding comes 100% from Austin. I mean, I know there's a gala here.
We have a mixture, so
some comes from national.
It's a mixture. We have a lot of great support in the Austin community. So we have a lot of supporters here who provide funding locally, local organizations, but we also have a lot of national partners. So the JW Marriott downtown, I stayed there last night for free because they're a partner of ours, and they provide the gala for free so that every money donated in the room goes to the program.
And then they hire.
Our members too.
I mean, you learn so much from just watching these little 3-minute clips. But if you can have these partners where...
Yeah, they've hired about 250 Marriott.
On the product side, get these people geared up, and then you guys do your thing. And then if you can just feed them right into whether it's Accenture or JW Marriott.
The CEO came out on a run. The Marriott CEO comes out on a run when he's in town in New York.
Yeah. What's your favorite success story?
I think it probably has to be. Oh God, that's really hard. I don't like to have favorites.
Well, then give a couple.
I think
it's like your children. You can't.
I know exactly. I can't pick.
Or your dogs.
But really, you can.
You don't have children.
I don't have children. I have dogs.
Dogs.
No, but I think that the Carol story that you saw, I think the ones that show just the level of extraordinary that people can, like the level of transformation, the level of change that is achievable, that makes people actually stand up and pay attention, because that then gives us the opportunity. So the Carols of the world that go from homeless to working in Accenture, the Normas of the world that go from homeless to Harvard. The reason I say that is only because that gives us the attention for all the other guys that may never make it to Harvard or may never make it to working in Accenture, but they're going to go and get a good job that's meaningful to them, that gives them a sense of self-worth, that gives them a sense of purpose. And that just helps us help so many more. No,
it's I didn't even, I mean, it was like 6 months. I think you guys emailed and asked us if we could come to the gala, which we can't. It's in April.
Yeah.
And I was like,
We have 13 galas, so I'll just put them all on your schedule.
We have a family calendar in the family, so you can just go in and
there we go.
I'll
just pop them in and then yeah.
But I'm like, how do I not know about this organization? Like, they're doing great work and it's running endurance. Like, where have I been? I totally missed it. And I think a lot of people.
Yeah, I think a piece of it is because, at the end of the day, like you said, we're not working with the folks necessarily under the bridge, unfortunately, because we have, a certain type of individual that this really works for. So we are small. We're a niche player, right, in every market we're in. So I think that has not necessarily enabled us to blow up, but in places like New York, we're getting a lot bigger and a lot more recognition, a lot more notice. And I think that the more that we do things like this, the more that we can get the name out there and help more of the members. Because we have wait lists. We have wait lists at the facilities we're working in. I do not like having wait lists. No. I like having people in my program, people getting jobs, people, getting back on their feet.
Yeah. I mean, I would, that would surprise me. I mean, it does surprise me that there's a wait list. But
yeah. Well, the members are the best. So think about it, right? The members, you go into a homeless facility and it is the most depressing place in the world. There's no joy in there. There's no hope. There's nothing, right? It's and
this is
these
like
guys.
This is not like a hotel. I mean,
this is all homeless facilities.
But it's like somewhere between a jail and a hotel. I mean,
much closer.
Simple room, closer to jail.
Yeah, I would say just in terms of the environment, right? In terms of the negativity of the environment, the shelter staff do phenomenal jobs. They do the best they can, but at the end of the day, there is limited resources, limited money, and there's just a sense of hopelessness, and there's no joy, there's no color, there's no life in them. And then you get these back on my feet guys running in at like 6:30 with their branded back on my feet gear. They're high-fiving, they're cheering. And every single person in that facility is like, one, shut up, I'm trying to sleep. Two, why are you so happy?
Yeah.
Why are you so happy? So they're our best advocates. They go in and basically recruit more members
that's
out.
Why I have a waiting list.
Exactly, yeah. So.
And what do you do if somebody was a drug addict? And I mean, I'm assuming it's expensive you can't test them. You can't, you just have to kind of gauge when they show up whether or not they're high or
every one of our members that works on the ground in the program is a social worker, so they've had myriad of experiences with this, with knowing and recognizing the signs and the symptoms. So if someone comes out in the morning and they've got any indication or any hint of it, they'll take them aside and they'll say, you need to go back to the facility, I'm going to come meet with you after, and then they'll go and see the caseworker in the facility to have the conversation.
God, I can't even imagine. And then
it's hard. Like the guys on the ground that do this job, we just had them all together for a program staff retreat last week. They are phenomenal human beings. Yeah. It is the hardest job in the world. It's the hardest job in the world because they see it go wrong. Right. It doesn't always go right. People die in that world.
I'm sure sometimes they, somebody has a disagreement, they get in a fight, and just who knows? Like that would suck to be there, like having to. Well, Shawn, I think his story is he here? Yeah, we'll bring him in.
Okay, great.
But his,
it's phenomenal.
He's got a lot. This is a lot of layers to his story, including drug addiction and homelessness, jail, PTSD, 10 years at combat.
Yeah. We have a lot of veterans in the program, and I think that we find
this is where you can also get political. I mean, the fact that we don't do anything for these guys that fucking.
With
the fucking go out and fight and
like quite honestly,
and they come
like
home and they're like,
we shouldn't have to have veterans in our program, right? That's the point. But we do because there's a need.
It's embarrassing.
But yeah, it's but they tend to do really well. I think the regiment of it, right? The schedule aspect of what we do, that 3 times a week at a set time, like they're kind of
they like that.
They like that.
Yeah.
They all say that they miss that, and they like that, and they say that to us. And then that constant pushing yourself further. Okay, well now we're going to do a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, a marathon. The nature of that pushing yourself, really something that they've missed or something that they like.
All right, now we're joined by Shaun Livingston, a member of Back on My Feet.
Yes,
we were talking like normally I would say like but it's cool that y'all are members. Like that's but you're an actual, I would say like a graduate.
Alumni.
There you go. Dude, you got a crazy story.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure there's parts that were a little tricky.
It's made me who I am.
Yeah.
So
how'd you ran the marathon the other day?
I did. Yep.
And your goal was, and I don't want to bum you out if you didn't do it, but your goal was to qualify for Boston.
That's an eventual goal. So
okay.
I've already hit my goal I did a 100-mile race back in November. So that was like my big goal. So I did that, and then I've been healing up some injuries and all that stuff. So yesterday or the other day was just for fun.
Yeah.
But a director has been following me around filming a documentary called Woke the Monster, and so him and I had
What's it called?
Woke the Monster.
Woke the Monster.
Yes. So it's just a story he documented through my 100-mile race, and then deals a lot with me rebuilding the relationship with my family, and like going a little bit really in depth with what they went through, what I went through with the military, with addiction, and all that. And so he's been following me around for quite a while. So him and I like joking back and forth. So we had a side bet. He wants me to set a goal that I'm not gonna. He's all about getting the drama and everything. So he wants me to set right. So he wants me to set a goal I wasn't gonna reach. And he's like, so you're gonna qualify for Boston? And I'm like, man, I haven't done any serious things since November. I don't know. And so the side joke was, as long as Lance doesn't beat me, I'm good to go. and I think you got me by 2 minutes.
What was your time?
3:28. I heard it was 2 minutes, but I saw you pass me with not.
So I must have passed you right at the end because
you came close.
Yeah.
It was close.
I have to think about the tatted guy that I passed right at the end. By the way, at the end of that marathon, I was cross-eyed. So
I was gonna say, thinking about
you could have
anything
been
at the end of the marathon?
purple, and
Right.
I didn't see you.
Right.
Like I was so. I don't know, man.
I didn't know if it was you, but I saw
all the shit around.
Yeah. So I was like, oh,
motos
I don't know anybody else is gonna have all that. So. gotta
It must be him.
Gotta be
It's
him.
all right.
It's gotta be him. And I was wearing a bandana. Everybody gives me grief. Like on Instagram, they're like, "Is that a bandana?" I'm like, "Yeah." My woman calls me the Karate Kid.
Right.
But there's a whole reason behind the bandana, which I won't bore you with. So, and I saw it must have been the trailer for the film because I read the interview that the marathon did with you, and then at the bottom of
I think the back.
you're on the speakerphone with your mom.
Okay, that's
That's
the
the
back.
back of my feet. Yeah.
Last year, Back on My Feet gave me a Member of the Year, and so that's actually how I met the director of the documentary Woke the Monster, and so we did that Back on My Feet video, and I still to this day get buddies from the Army and people I grew up with, people I don't even know that see the video and reach out to me and ask me, what did I do, and it's really overwhelming.
I don't know. The video is so. If you don't start to shed a tear, then you're a robot.
Right.
I mean, it's to hear your mother, and it, I guess they don't really get into it. The film probably gets into it, but there must have been years where you didn't go home for the holidays or for special occasions, and I mean, I can't even imagine. But you spend 10 years at war. Right, or 10 years in the
10 years
armed
total
forces.
in the military. Right out of high school, I went into the Air Force Reserves, and was on active duty orders pretty much that whole time. Did 6 years, got out, and was running around, not doing much of anything, and tried to get back into the active duty Air Force, and they just weren't accepting prior service people at the time. So after about 2 years, beginning to start getting in trouble and stuff like that, not leading down any positive path, got into the Army, and so hit the ground running with the Army. And about a year in, I was training to get ready to go to Iraq, and we were just all suited up one day, and we were doing 3 to 5 second rushes where you're up, then you drop, and you go as if you're engaging the enemy. No. So you hop up, you run for 3 to 5 seconds, drop down, hop back up. It's basically like exercise, but practicing.
Yeah.
So I just came up weird one time with all the weight of the pack and everything on me, tweaked my back a little bit, and the next day I couldn't even get out of bed, and so I had already had this. I had already liked partying at the time, so that didn't help at all when
Define partying. Drinking?
Just drinking. Drink weed, ecstasy, party.
Gotcha.
Party drugs. Nothing hardcore. No
Daily?
heart. No. I mean,
On the weekends.
it's kind of the culture in the military just to hang out and party.
Yeah. That's kind of my culture too. But.
Right. Yeah. So very, very common, and it's with addiction, it doesn't discriminate. It either gets you or it doesn't. There's somebody that can pick up one beer, drink it, and be fine, and there's other people that you pick up one time, and that's what it is. Right. And so I just always had the mentality to take anything to the highest level. So
And so then it goes from just sort of partying with your buddies on the weekend to hurting yourself. I don't know, I guess the doctor, I don't know what like the
yeah, so that they stuck me on painkillers, and I began taking them.
And then we're talking like painkillers that
Just
we all read about every minute of every day.
Vicodin,
Oxys and
Vicodin, Percocet, and as those become less effective.
Take one.
Yeah.
Like I've had like surgeries, and I don't know if maybe it's like you just said, it either gets you or it doesn't. Like I've had a bunch of surgeries where they give you Oxy or whatever just for pain.
Right.
And I've never really felt. I mean, I guess the pain went away, but I wasn't like, "Whoa, this is cool, man!" Like, this is
a brain
party.
chemistry thing, though.
Yeah, they hit.
Right? It's a brain chemistry. Like you said, it can happen to anyone.
There's some people that take opiates and they get a down feeling, sick to their stomach. Then there's other people that get energy. I was one of the people that got energy. I got very outgoing. Wanted, let's go to work. Let's do this. And
so one, and then one doesn't work so good, and then you
right, and then
two,
more, and
then
then
to 4, and then to 8, and it just keeps.
And so just left on them for a longer period of time, and then when it was come time to be taken off them, at first I thought I had food poisoning, and I was getting sick. I didn't know what was going on, and then I found
when you stopped taking them.
Yes.
Jeez.
And so it just had developed for me at that point where I knew I could get this sick feeling to go away by just finding another pill. And so I started to do that, and eventually pills become too expensive and they dry up, and then there's just other substance. So eventually it turned into heroin, and eventually it turned into IV use heroin. And it was my downfall. I got kicked out of the military for felony urinalysis, and
for heroin.
Yes. And so I was really passionate about basketball when I was younger, and I got in a bad car accident, and so I kind of lost my future in playing basketball. So that's what took me to the military. And then once I lost the military, I was just kind of left with nothing but now this addiction. And it just spiraled out of control. Yeah. So I got out of the military, and when we came back from Iraq, a lot of I lost my squad leader in a pretty tragic way, and he ended up killing himself. And
at combat.
No. We got back, and he had some issues and ended up taking his wife's life and his life, and so
we just were talking about this before you walked in here. Like I just the fact that you guys and gals go over there and fight for our freedom and liberty and come back, and it's just like, hey, good luck, buddy. I mean, this is bullshit. Like there's got to be. I know I'm just ranting, but this is crazy.
It's tough, and then I believe it's starting to get better. I believe there's more eyes on it, and things like this where you're getting exposure and people are more educated. Mm-hmm. But and then you don't really know in the military or just in life in general. Mm-hmm. You're a military man. You're tough. You don't ask them for help and all that stuff. Right. I was under the delusion that I could do it myself. I can kick this. I'll be good. I can get it under control, and I would attempt, and it was just to no avail.
Because what happens, I guess, is again, if you believe what you read, the people for whatever reason find Oxy, probably like a lot like you, we get hurt, and then all of a sudden it just rolls, and then it's so expensive, and then heroin is so much cheaper and probably easier to get.
Right.
I mean, that's just.
And
how bad are we talking? I mean, we're all the way straight homeless? At some point in jail or in prison.
So I was never technically homeless on the street. There was times where I was living in a hotel or staying on a friend's couch, but I never was actually spending the night on the street. Mm. But I didn't have a home. Right. So homeless in that sense, yes. Yeah. And got arrested. Got arrested one day down in Waco, Texas, and for drug possession. Bailed out, and that very next day got arrested again for drug possession.
Like what? They just pulled you over, or how?
It was just me being dumb, trying to drive, and then doing too much.
And had drugs in your car.
Yeah. Got pulled over once, and then that next day when I bailed out, had done too much and passed out in my car, and the cops ended up finding me.
Jesus.
And so I went to prison for almost 2 years, but I paroled out, and just
Okay, hang on, because this I was curious, like, because you go to prison as a heroin addict,
yes,
so that's like overnight you're away.
correct.
But what happens with withdrawals or the DTs or or is there drugs? Is there heroin in prison?
I didn't ever come across any.
So you
I
just
didn't
stopped
see
cold
it.
turkey then because you went to
Yeah,
prison.
I mean, you kick while you're in county, so you go through that. If they know you're doing that, they'll put you in like a cell where you're, by yourself before they put you in the back. But
And are you just freaking out, like your body physically?
yeah, it's actually funny in jail. So a lot of what you'll read and hear about is a lot of the withdrawals are mental. So for some reason, being in county or being locked away somewhere and knowing that you can't get it kind of takes a little bit of that edge off.
And does the system, the jail system, or the whatever system, provide any kind of support, any kind of value, anything to help with coming off?
Withdrawals, no, nothing like that.
I also think that's fucked up. I
Yeah.
think that's like torture. I mean, it sounds like you worked yourself through it, but for most people, I mean, they'd be tweaking out, like going crazy. Like, I don't know. It just seems.
But believe it or not, once you go to county, for a drug addict wise, a normal person would go to county and it would snap and then, I got to change something. But for some reason, going to county and stuff, for me particularly, it wasn't. I thought I had learned my lesson, but then you get back out and you hang out with the same people. You start doing the same thing.
That's what you did?
I mean, that's what I did, and I'm
You
sure.
went from county to prison, though.
Correct.
And then when you got out of prison, you started partying again?
Very shortly after, yeah.
Oh, I thought that was
Very
it.
shortly. No.
Oh my God.
No,
Okay,
I would say it got much worse, and then I ended up getting arrested 2 more times for possession. So then
are you working?
I get retirement from the military.
So no job.
Correct.
No,
So I fill my time. I work with vets at a treatment center, and then I also
no, back then.
Just odd jobs.
Yeah.
Nothing, no career, definitely.
Right, and this is the period where your family is like, our son is a mess and
Yeah,
he's not welcome.
When I went away to prison is when I definitely hit my lowest point. My mom quit picking up the phone, and so it was one of the hardest things that I ever had to go through. But it was what needed to happen at that time.
No, I mean, as a
I
parent,
don't blame her. I don't blame her for one bit.
because you had fooled them a couple times, right? You would
Yes.
you would go home and they kept, for lack of a better phrase, falling for it.
Right.
And then finally they say no, but you guys and gals listening should go watch it. But in the trailer, it's sort of this moment where your mom, she tells you why they want you to come home, and I mean, it's super emotional, but she says she could tell that you're doing better or you are better because of your laugh.
Right.
And so, but that only a mom can say that, and only
Right.
a mom can know that.
Can understand it.
Yeah.
They I mean, for years she wanted to believe that everything was okay, and I would provide the illusion that it was. But as soon as she would get around me, I'd hold it together for a couple of days, and then something would happen that would, that she would know better, and she wanted to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got in trouble, 2 more times, and so I went.
Don't you go back to prison then? I mean,
So I was done with the trouble from before, but I had that on my record. So I get in trouble these 2 times, and I bonded out of county. So I was out, but still waiting to go to, court to find out what would happen. And I got a lawyer, and I'll never forget the lawyer looking at me saying, like, "What do you want me to do with this? They got you. I can't fight this." And so at that time, I had just said, if you can get me a little bit of time to try to rebuild things with my family, to try to clean up or anything. And he goes, okay, I'll try to do that. So he had told me the judge had come down and was saying 20 years, and that he wasn't going to budge off that. They were going to enhance my fourth felony, and that they're going to charge me with habitual criminal. And so, for a long time, I wanted to run around and run around in the street and be a tough guy and all that stuff. But when you hear a judge say 20 years, all that, the tough guy stuff goes out the window.
Yeah.
And so that's when I'm like, something has got to change. So I went and I did 8 months treatment at the VA in Temple, Texas, and my mom had actually come down to visit me, and we went to visit my lawyer, and I'd started going to AA, and I had a great group of people at AA to get behind me, and they had written me a bunch of letters. So I had a big folder of all the stuff I had done over the past 8 months.
Character witnesses or
Right.
character,
letters. And
Yeah.
so I walked in, showed it to my lawyer, and I just remember him sitting back, and it was awesome. My mom was there, and he sat back. He's like, I never expected this. He goes, whatever you're doing, I need you to keep doing it, and I think we have a real chance at possibly being able to get you probation. And so I was like, okay. He goes, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So I had found out about a treatment center here in Austin. And years before, I had lived in Austin, and it was one of my lowest points when I had ended up going away to prison and all that the first time. So I was a little skeptical about coming back to Austin. And when I was here, I didn't ever see what the city had good to offer. I'd only ever seen the bad stuff.
It's an amazing city.
And so it's one of the best I've ever been in. So thankful I'm here. And so I found out about the treatment center called A New Entry here in Austin, and went there. It's a six month facility, and
In addition to the 8 months at the VA.
yeah. And so in retrospect, all the years that I had dedicated to getting messed up, another 6 months of my life was a very small price to pay, and thinking about 20 years. And so it was just a time when I became willing to do anything. And I just remember it was the first time I had been provided any hope that there was, maybe light at the end of the tunnel when they said maybe probation and all that. It was the first time I had ever felt the sense of like, this is it. This is your last shot.
This is your shot. Yeah,
Right.
this is your one shot.
And I remember my mom sitting next to me crying, and I just really felt like I had to seize the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
And then you find these guys.
Right.
Back on my feet.
Yeah. Some guys.
And you were not a runner. You're a
No.
basketball player.
Right. Running was always punishment to me. If I didn't have a ball in my hand, I was in trouble for something. So I never in a million years. When I found out in high school that people ran cross country, I was like, you what?
I was that guy.
You just go out and
I ran
run?
track and cross country in high school. I was a little runner nerd.
Right. If only I would have knew the levels I could have took my basketball game to if I was out there running like that.
And you were 260. You weighed 260 pounds.
Yes. Yep.
At the time. Now
just from
190 probably. What are you, 195? What'd you say? What did I read? Or less?
probably. Well, let's ride with 195.
Yeah, as long as we're not going to start all talking about weights.
Right.
Okay?
This is
Yeah.
like I had a Charles Barkley on a few weeks ago, and I was talking. I don't know how his weight came up, but I was like, "Yeah, you're 2 something." He's like, "Let's just stop right there." 'Cause his ass is as big as his tape. I love you, Charles, and I know you're not watching this anyway, but his ass is this big, so it has to start with a 3.
Right. Right.
Don't y'all agree? Yeah, they were all there. Big.
Right.
You see him walk around, you're like, damn. Anyways,
Those suits hide it good on NBA and
the desk,
TNT. Yeah.
the desk hides it good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so you find them and you commit to the program, which we Katie and I were talking about before you got here. But maybe it was has it always been, Katie? Has it always been 3 days a week?
Yeah.
Just the commitment.
Yeah. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Some guys had come back to the treatment center, and they had just run the Cap 10K, and I had already gotten like health conscious, watching what I ate and like looking to get into something active. Was going up to the park and playing basketball when they would let us, and some guys came back from the Cap 10K, and for some reason it just kind of sparked that competitive edge that I hadn't felt for years. And I was like, man, I could do that better. Like, I'm just being honest. I'm like, I could beat those
There's
guys.
a lot of
Right.
competition on those morning
Right.
runs.
So yeah, I went to the first day. I was still smoking cigarettes. I couldn't even run 2 miles. I was dying, and but for the next 5 months, I never missed a day. Even on the option days, I would make it there, unless they canceled due to like extreme weather, which we don't get much. But
Right.
Yeah.
but never missed
We
a
talked
day.
about
Well,
the weather thing.
extreme weather cancellations, like we see them in 13 cities, and I'm like, okay, Boston cancelled because there's 17 feet of snow, and then Austin cancelled because there's like a little bit of rain. Or
Right.
something. I'm like,
Windy.
okay,
It was windy.
It was windy.
Yeah. Have you seen people drive in this town when it rains? You'll
I just took an Uber over
It's
here.
the
Yeah, I
worst.
was like, I'm not sure why we're not getting
sorry,
here.
sorry.
Why is it taking so long?
No,
Yeah,
this city is as great as it is. We
I'm
have
not going
the
to get
worst
out on my
drivers.
flight, am I? They're not going to be able to. They don't do planes stop, I'm assuming, because it's raining.
No, they will fly in the rain. We have a long runway. This was an old Air Force base.
Oh.
This is the fun little factoid. That was because it was the Bergstrom Air Force Base. They closed it in the 80s, and the runways are super long. It was an alternate landing spot for the space shuttle. That's how long these runways are.
Oh, wow.
Did you know? Nobody knew that.
No.
Didn't know
Did
that.
not know
So they can get out. They just go and go and
Good
go,
to
and
know.
then they finally take off. You'll be fine.
That's what planes do. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Just
Ideally.
Ideally.
And they keep.
Yeah. And they keep going. Yeah, okay.
And how old are you at that time? Like how old are you now?
36.
36.
Just
So
turned 36.
when did you do your first run?
2017.
Oh,
So-
man, that's recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. And you ran 320 something?
Yep. So I've been only
So
running.
next time
I've,
he's gonna beat
I've only
you.
been running about 2 years.
We should run together.
I'm down.
Yeah.
So that's what I was gonna say. I run mostly trail races
Let's
now.
do that too.
Right.
It's way better than I hate pavement.
Me
but-
too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, no, it's way
So I was-
it's just better for you.
So I was telling the director, I was like, at some point I got to ask him if I can get him out to a trail race, because you were training pretty hard for the marathon, right? From what I had heard.
I was.
I had
Yeah,
noticed
not-
I had noticed in the comment section people were trying to follow you on Strava
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I knew you were training for it, but I was
Yeah.
just
I
all-
tweaked my hamstring.
When's the trail race here in Austin?
There's a
they're
lot
all-
of them.
they're all the
No,
time.
but we have
I
back
run-
on my
I
we have a
run
back
one
on
month.
my feet one.
Oh,
We had
let's do
one-
that.
So let's get into that one. Right.
When is it?
Oh,
Ah, we-
I see
Do
your
we know
angle. I see
anybody
your
that
angle.
works there that could tell us?
Yeah, we do. Scott, I'm meeting him right now.
I think they just
They
had
would've
they just
worked.
had
I'm
it a
supposed
couple
to know.
months ago.
Yeah. Oh, did it? They just
Like right when it started getting cold.
I'll-
That was
we'll
it
find
was
something.
actually the
We'll
day.
find it,
It was
but
actually the day I ran my 100-mile race in Georgia.
Yeah, but there's one in the summer, right? Bigfoot Trail Race.
I think that was the one. I could be wrong.
They
But
look on the website, Bigfoot Trail Race.
I'll check it out.
Lance is coming.
So this
to that
guy,
race.
we just heard your story. I mean, to me, is amazing to go from the lowest of lows, and then to start running 2 years ago. Now you're running 100 milers, which is like that's the epitome of our whole thing around here is we do, right? So most people when I look at a 100 miler, I'm like, who wants to do that? And a whole bunch of people standing on the start line are like, we do.
right.
But that's just 27 hours. I guess you didn't sleep.
No, straight through.
Hallucinate?
Yeah. At one point, I remember. At one point, I told the guys a guy behind me had asked me where the next group of guys that were ahead of us where they went, and I said I think over the covered bridge, and there was no covered bridge.
Right.
So I don't know nothing major. I hear about some people having some pretty major ones, but
Yeah. I paced a buddy of mine who did Western States.
Okay.
So from miles 60 to 80. And I mean, it was trippy because it's dark and you have the headlamp on. And Eric Burns, he's been on this podcast. He's a former baseball player who's now like an endurance freak, junkie, obsessed. But the shit he was saying, man, is like, oh, watch over the monkey. And then you're like, dinosaur. I'm like, dude.
right.
But that
No,
happens.
yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever felt myself go like running through the night was the toughest part. You've already ran. It started at 7:30 in the morning, so you already ran all day, all afternoon, all evening, and so then like sleep deprivation starts setting in, and you're more lactic acid, and I mean obviously you know more about that, but more than I've ever felt in
right.
my
Well,
life.
I've never done anything for 27 hours.
Okay,
So you got me there.
okay, so
Any and I don't want to jinx anything here, but do you have any temptation to ever go back to that life?
no, I mean
If you go to a bar, or if you're you've separated yourself from that
I've done
that part of your friends. I'm saying.
Right. So the one of the biggest things back on my feet was able to help me with was, and I go around and I speak a lot of places. I do work in the treatment center and all that. And my whole main message is for people to use the time, whether it's in treatment or wherever, to build some sort of foundation to go out to. So I looked at what was different about all the other times I did treatment as opposed to this time, and what was different. Yeah. And it was definitely because being at that treatment center and being introduced to something that I became passionate about and meeting the people to do it with. So a lady, her name's Penny Lane, that I met through Back on My Feet. She's on the board. She's who introduced me to trail running. And so I met this trail running world, and just some of the most supportive, true friends. When I was locked up, I thought I had friends, but none of them were writing me letters or asking me how I was or putting money on my books. But I have friends now that tell me good morning or happy birthday or that truly, truly care about me. And so my whole message to people is to go out and build that foundation. So when you do go out and you do hit a scenario where, your initial instinct was to always use before, now I just have so many things in place, whether it's in the recovery world, I've stay connected with the recovery world, with the running world. Yeah. So I've just done a lot of work around it. If I was in jeopardy of going somewhere and feeling like that, there's obviously something wrong that I need to do some work around and figure that out. But I mean, the idea I'm conscious that I was a heroin addict back then. I'm always conscious of it. I know it, but I'm so thankful to have what I have in my life. And I remember running my first race and what it felt like to get that, big medal around my neck. Yeah. And it was it was like a drug in itself. And so I was hooked from that point on. And so I'm so focused with running these races, and I've been blessed to actually win a couple. And so
it's amazing how many, there's something there, but and it's not a high percentage, but it's a higher percentage of people that do these long trail runs, these 100-milers that have overcome addiction or overcome, mental health issues, and I mean, most of
our multiple marathoners have had some form of addiction in the past.
Right.
Like we see like a
so
kind
they
of
replace
there's
one
definitely
thing
a correlation
with another,
between like the success. It's like you turn it into something positive. Like you said, you got the medal and it gave you a high. Like it's
right.
like it's a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right?
I'm not a scientist, so I don't know the proper terms, but there's definitely when I had started running, whatever it did to make the serotonin, dopamine, the connections, right. My thinking became clearly. When I got out of the military and came back from Iraq and all that stuff, and losing my best friend, losing my squad leader, I had horrible depression, real bad anxiety, panic disorder, nightmares, all that stuff, and they medicated. It never did, it never helped. It never solved the problem. When I started running, all that it melted away.
So you feel like when you go out on a 2 or 3 hour run or whatever, I mean, you can just process. I mean, I've never had, maybe I have had PTSD because I've been through a wild period, but it just feels like, just based on my years of experience, that you would be able to unwind a lot of that, this mess of wires that comes with war or combat or trauma.
100%.
Yeah.
That's my meditation. That's my medicine. Yeah. If I have a problem or I'm stressed about something and I go run on it, I'm always able to come back, think level-headed, see it from all different angles. It's really a miracle how something as basic as running. Running's not some complex things for a human being, but
right.
That's why we use running,
and that's why I love
People
running.
Ask that,
I mean,
like,
that's
why running? Why not?
As opposed to cycling,
form?
you got to get. If you travel. Yeah. I mean, running's just easy. Yeah. Like, okay, let's pack the running shoes. Yeah. And no matter where you are, you can figure out where to go or run on a treadmill or. With cycling and all the, it's more complicated. Like you can't. Who's going to roll around or travel with a bike all the time and all the gear and try to figure out where you're going to go for 50 miles? It's a pain in the ass.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
Another thing I love about it is it's just you out there, especially when you're out in nature on a trail race. No phone, no earphones, nothing like that. No noise, no Wi-Fi, anything like that. The one time you're familiar with Austin, Bull Creek. Bull Creek Trail.
Bull Creek is up off 360?
Yes.
Is that where it is?
Yeah. So
I don't even know is there still trails out there?
Oh, yeah. Beautiful trails.
Let's go, man.
There you go. It sounds like you found your place to go.
Let's do it.
I just run the Greenbelt.
Oh, no. That's boring. Have you ever been to River Place?
Higgs runs out there all the time. So I've never done that run. He loves it.
So I go to repeats out there all the time. It's 2,700 steps, just up, down, excuse me. But I remember running at Bull Creek one time, and the sun was just coming up, and I had just come out this part where the trees had parted, and was with a group of my running friends that I run with on Sunday, and I just remember looking at that whole scene of North Austin and the hills and everything like that, and like it's giving me goosebumps now. Like that's when I was like, man, my life has changed. Like it was the most special movie moment that I could think of at that time.
We'll put it in the movie,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dude, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
What is the movie?
It's called Woke the Monster.
Woke the Monster.
We should be.
When can we watch it?
We should be done filming. He said in April, and then it'll go into editing, and then hopefully
this summer.
get in some film festivals, and then one day see it on Netflix or
Is there a
something
link?
like that.
WokeTheMonster.com or something?
All that's coming.
All
There's
that's
ShawnLivingston.com. So I've started trying to do
SHAWN.
Yeah, right. Not like the basketball player.
Yeah.
Who's UN? But ShawnLivingston. And and that on I am Shawn Livingston on Instagram.
Okay.
And so I just
I'll
started.
follow you too. We're
Awesome.
gonna follow you. We're gonna go running.
Let's do it.
I
Awesome.
swear, but I was like the other day. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I threw away my running shoes.
Did you?
They stunk, by the way.
Right.
They smelled so bad. I mean, I take these things off. People in the house be like, dude. I mean, they hated me, but they're gone. But I bought some new ones on Amazon, so I'll be with you.
It's so funny how at the every big race I did, whether my first 50K, the 100K, the 100-miler, I would get to a point and be like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? There's no reason to run this far. Or like towards the end of the marathon, and then it's funny how the next day creeps around and you're like, when's the next one? What are we gonna do?
Yeah, that's You traded one addiction for another. That's addiction, and so you should just pursue that. I
tell people all the time, I'm lucky I found an avenue to apply my addict mentality to.
Awesome. We're pulling for you, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Katie, and where do we got to go to learn more about Back on My Feet? Just
backonmyfeet.org. Just go to the website.
org.
Or again, the translator. Backonmyfeet.org. We're also on Twitter, Back on My Feet, Instagram, Back on My Feet, Facebook. Join us on a run, because I don't really feel like you'll really get what we do.
I know. I meant to go on a run before this.
Well, I didn't mean you. I meant everybody else listening.
No, but
you too, I guess.
I felt like, and I actually told myself, I had before we do this, I have to do one of the runs, and we're living up in Colorado now. I don't know, so it's
we're launching in Denver in the summer, so we'll be launching there in the summer as well. So that's the City 13. A few more to come after that, but check us out on the website.
Okay, I love it. Y'all, thank you.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Good luck.